This Sunday night, the NDP chooses its new leader. Avi Lewis wins a decisive victory.
The NDP comeback starts now.
His plans to rebuild the party and the criticism already coming from within. Peace talks in Pakistan. Diplomats discuss how to end the Iran war, even as both sides escalate their attacks. Plus, peculiar propaganda.
You want to see me do it again?
The online war of memes between Washington and Tehran. And prepare to launch.
I spent a lot more time looking at it through binoculars.
NASA astronauts, including this Canadian, make a final appearance before their mission to the moon.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. For the first time in nearly a year, the federal NDP has a new leader. Avi Lewis, a former broadcaster, documentary maker, and climate activist, was selected on the first ballot, winning a decisive 56% of the vote. Lewis campaigned on aggressive environmental and affordability policies, and he called the result a victory for party unity. But even as he spoke, some provincial NDP leaders were already voicing their opposition. Melissa Ridgen reports from the party convention in Winnipeg.
Avi Lewis, 39,000.
Filmmaker and self-described eco-socialist Avi Lewis, the new leader of the New Democrats. Here with his wife, author Naomi Klein, the NDP decisively chose Lewis as the leader to pull them out from a historic low.
I want to say it out loud. Canada, mark your calendar. The NDP comeback starts now.
Lewis takes on the job that was held by his grandfather, David Lewis, from 1971 to 75. His father, Stephen Lewis, a former Ontario NDP leader. Lewis's anti-oil, anti-Israel messaging as popular with the party as his anti-1% rally cries.
It is time, far past time, to properly tax the corporations and billionaires that have been riding a tidal wave of profits, while the 99% have been suffering and struggling, and use that money to directly improve the lives of Canadians.
Lewis wasn't even finished his victory speech when Naheed Nenshi distanced himself and the Alberta NDP from the federal party, saying, "We believe in Canadian energy," a sentiment echoed by Saskatchewan NDP leader Carla Beck.
When Israel commits a genocide in Gaza, we call it by its name.
While Lewis is the second Jew to lead the federal party, his grandfather being the first, the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs panned his win, saying when a leader declares that Zionism is inseparable from ethnic cleansing, he's telling Jewish Canadians that a core part of their identity is illegitimate. Prime Minister Mark Carney and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre both offered congratulations on social media. Lewis has not indicated where or when he'll run for Parliament. He ran twice in Vancouver ridings in the past and finished third both times. Riding high from Sunday's win, this NDP analyst says Lewis needs to focus now outside the party.
Start talking to people who are not NDP members, who may not have voted NDP in the last election, the day of. Start that work, because that work is going to be really important.
Redefining and re-energizing the party was the point of this convention. Now Avi Lewis and the NDP will have to convince Canadian voters they're the party to support. Jeff?
Melissa Ridgen in Winnipeg. Thanks, Melissa. Lewis will have his work cut out as he tries to rebuild a party whose support federally has essentially collapsed over the past 15 years. At the height of its popularity under the late Jack Layton, the NDP won 103 seats in Parliament during the 2011 election, becoming the official opposition for the first time. But in 2015, under Thomas Mulcair, the party was knocked back to third place with 44 seats. After Jagmeet Singh took the helm, the New Democrats saw its seat counts drop to 24 and 25 before getting decimated, left with just 7 MPs in last year's vote, losing official party status. Diplomats from across the Middle East gathered for peace talks in Pakistan today to discuss possible pathways to end the month-long war. But those discussions ended earlier than scheduled as the fighting rages on. Tehran is now threatening to attack American universities in the region in the coming hours. Candice Cole reports from Washington.
In a new escalation in the U.S.-Israel war on Iran, now entering its second month, Tehran is now threatening U.S. universities as targets in the region after Israel launched an overnight attack on Iran's University of Science and Technology. Now, Iran is giving the U.S. until noon Monday, Tehran time, to condemn the bombings before they retaliate. This as diplomatic leaders from nearby Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia met in Pakistan Sunday to discuss a possible end to the fighting.
We agreed that this war is not in favor of anyone and would only lead to death and destruction. Pakistan will be honored to host and facilitate meaningful talks between the two sides in coming days.
3,500 American troops have now arrived in the Middle East, making the total count over 50,000 in the region, sparking concern over a looming ground invasion, which hasn't been ruled out by U.S. President Donald Trump.
We cannot have American troops on the ground in Iran. This is going to be such a risky operation. And for what purpose?
The move prompting a warning from Iran's Revolutionary Guard that any U.S. ground operations would result in, quote, captivity, dismemberment, and disappearance of the aggressors. Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who's been vocally against putting U.S. troops on the ground in Iran, said on CNN's State of the Union Sunday,
if we're going to do a conventional ground operation with Marines and 82nd Airborne, that is a ground war that I believe Congress should have a say in.
Since the war began in February, 13 U.S. troops have been killed and over 300 have been injured in the conflict. In attempts to find an off-ramp, Trump proposed a 15-point peace plan, which Iran swiftly rejected. As his Israeli counterpart, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced Sunday he is expanding Israel's offensive operations deeper into southern Lebanon against Iran's proxy, Hezbollah. Candice Cole, Global News, Washington.
That threat Candice mentioned of a growing Israeli offensive in Lebanon didn't stop Christians there from attending Mass to commemorate Palm Sunday, when it's believed Jesus entered Jerusalem prior to his crucifixion. But there was controversy in Jerusalem itself today. Police blocked the city's Catholic cardinal from entering the Church of the Sepulchre, preventing church leaders from holding Palm Sunday Mass there for the first time in centuries. Israeli officials say they've closed all holy sites in the Old City, citing safety concerns from the war. The move was criticized by some world leaders, including Canada's Prime Minister. Ukraine has just signed new air defense deals with Arab countries as President Volodymyr Zelensky tours the Gulf states to shore up support against Russia's invasion. Zelensky agreed to share his country's expertise on countering drones and missiles with Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. He struck a similar deal with Saudi Arabia last week. Ukraine's anti-drone interceptors are in high demand by Gulf nations in light of Iran's attacks. In return, Ukraine is requesting high-end air defense missiles. The family of an Air Canada flight attendant who was badly injured during last week's collision at LaGuardia Airport has just provided an update. Solange Tremblay's family shared this photo of her recovering in a New York hospital after multiple surgeries on her legs, which were severely fractured. Solange was sitting in the jump seat behind the cockpit when the plane crashed, killing the two pilots. She was ejected and found on the tarmac, still strapped to her seat. A fundraising campaign has been launched to support her recovery, which her family says will include more surgeries. And in New Brunswick, one person is dead after a helicopter crash. Police received a call at around 7 p.m. on Saturday about a missing chopper that was traveling from Fredericton to Sussex. Search crews found the helicopter's main cabin and the body of the pilot west of the Sussex airport this morning. Investigators there now working to determine what caused the crash. After weeks of delays, NASA's Artemis 2 moon mission is one step closer to liftoff. The 4 astronauts, including Canada's Jeremy Hansen, made their final appearance before entering quarantine ahead of Wednesday's expected launch. Our Nathaniel Dove reports on the final preparations for this history-making mission.
T-minus 60 seconds and counting.
It was a triumph for our species. Launching into space.
It's one small step for man.
And landing on the moon. The goal now is eventually to return.
I spent a lot more time looking at it through binoculars in my backyard, sharing that with my family.
Astronauts Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Canadian Jeremy Hansen spending their last few days on solid ground before blasting into space and farther away from Earth than any humans have ever been.
And this is a test flight. This is the first time we're going to try this. This is the first time we're loading humans on board. And I will tell you, the four of us, we are ready to go.
Artemis 2 will not land on the moon, so others soon can. Its mission is to conduct experiments that, in the cold and dark of space, bring risk.
And so we are the primary hazard avoidance system. These eyes and our assessment of how close we are.
I felt perfectly confident, sitting on top of several million pounds of high explosives.
Former NASA astronaut Jeffrey Hoffman flew 5 shuttle missions. Handling risk, he says, depends on preparation.
The only way really to judge the safety of a system is, you operate it and hopefully you don't have an accident.
It's not just where the crew is going. The mission is also historic because Glover and Cook will become the first black man and woman, respectively, to circle the moon.
I love that, but I also hope we are pushing the other direction, that one day we don't have to talk about these first, that one day this is the human history.
And it's also not about celebrating any one individual. If there is something to celebrate, it's that we are at a time when everyone who has a dream gets to work equally hard to achieve that dream.
The astronauts' main message, pushing further into space, really enables more discovery about ourselves. Nathaniel Dove, Global News, Toronto.
NASA scientists are also trying to solve a medical mystery after one of their astronauts had a health scare in space.
My crewmates definitely saw that I was in distress. They immediately started taking care of me.
That is astronaut Mike Fink, who was eating dinner aboard the International Space Station back in January when he suddenly felt sick and was unable to speak for about 20 minutes. In response, NASA launched its first ever medical evacuation from space. Fink was flown back to Earth and says he's feeling fine. More than 2 months later, doctors have ruled out a heart attack but still don't know what happened.
I think the preponderance of opinion is that this was definitely related to microgravity. And at that time, I had 542 days of my life in microgravity. So sometimes it can catch up to us. And we're still trying to figure out what exactly the phenomenon was.
He says figuring out what went wrong is critical to protect future astronauts. Iran's information war coming up. From Lego Trump to SpongeBob SquarePants, the bizarre online propaganda battle between Washington and Tehran. The U.S.-Israeli war in Iran has now entered its second month with no end in sight. Wartime propaganda has existed as long as war itself, but this conflict in Iran has spawned an entirely different type of information war, involving memes, cartoons, and even deepfake videos. The propaganda war over Iran has taken a strange turn. The White House and the Iranian regime are trolling each other online in a war of memes, posting videos like these on their official social media channels. It started with the White House posting videos of real airstrikes on Iran, edited together with clips from American action movies and video games, even SpongeBob SquarePants.
You want to see me do it again?
With captions such as "Justice the American Way" and "Wake up, Daddy's home."
This obscene focus on lethality and the celebration of violence, this focus on a gaming culture where victims vanish from moral consideration, is an utterly immoral.
Tehran is now firing back.
By the time a satellite finds me, I'm already gone.
The regime's propaganda studio producing these animations. Many depicting Lego figures of the U.S. president, Israeli prime minister, and the devil plotting attacks on Iran to distract from the Epstein scandal.
A lot of this stuff would seem silly if it wasn't obviously such a serious situation. Is this stuff actually effective?
I mean, I think it's effective in functioning as rallying cries. We are talking about content that's been viewed in the billions.
What started as a propaganda war between the American and Iranian governments has now spiraled into an online free-for-all, with other apparently ordinary users deploying AI technology to produce not only memes, but deepfake videos of the war. This video purports to show an Iranian attack on the U.S. Navy in the Strait of Hormuz. Well, this one claims to show Israel's airport being struck by an Iranian missile.
Both are fake.
The use of AI is just shedding doubt everywhere. So it's making things more believable, but it's also making things not believable in the sense that anything and everything can be edited or fully AI generated.
This parallel information war is blurring the lines between real and fake, war and entertainment, unlike anything seen before.
Prime Minister no-show still ahead. Why Mark Carney's question period attendance record pales in comparison to his predecessors.
And they rain and they snow on everyone.
Canadian folk icon Joni Mitchell is making a rare public appearance at the Juno Awards in Hamilton, Ontario tonight. She will become just the third artist to ever receive the Juno's Lifetime Achievement Award. Prime Minister Mark Carney is also expected to make an appearance at the Canadian Music Awards show. One place the Prime Minister has not been appearing much lately is in question period. Carney has spent a lot of time on the road and overseas since becoming Prime Minister, but he's been notably absent in the House of Commons. Our David Aiken explains the significance of his absence and how Carney's attendance record compares to his predecessors.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to welcome the Prime Minister to his first official question period. This is where democracy lives, and this is where we provide rigorous scrutiny on every word he says.
But Mark Carney has avoided much of that scrutiny with a question period attendance record much worse than either of his two predecessors. Since the 2025 election, Carney has been present for question period less than 30% of the time. Justin Trudeau, in his first year after winning office, showed up to QP 46% of the time, while Stephen Harper, in the year after he first won in 2006, was present for QP 64% of the time. Not only that, Carney has yet to take a question from any New Democrat MP.
1.2 million Canadians have voted for us. I don't think it's too much to ask the Prime Minister to wait an extra 10 minutes to answer questions that we put to him. And by the way, there's questions the NDP puts this government that nobody else puts.
And Carney also ignores almost all backbenchers, choosing to answer questions put to him only by leaders or their designates of the Conservatives or the Bloc Québécois.
I think a Prime Minister should be there whenever possible, just to hear the temperature of the country and to hear from the representatives. To me, that's gold.
By contrast, Justin Trudeau would, once a week, take all the questions during QP, not just from leaders, but from backbench MPs as well.
He would take all the questions on a Wednesday, and I think you get a different variety, obviously.
Ben Lobb has been an MP since 2008, and he says Trudeau's weekly habit gave all MPs a chance to hold the PM accountable about important local or regional issues.
And you get questions from people in a community where the issue is right there and present.
Can the Prime Minister agree?
The only time Carney has taken a question from an opposition backbencher when he needed Green Party MP Elizabeth May to side with the government on a confidence vote. David Aiken, Global News, Ottawa.
Up next, hitting all the right notes, how Canadian musicians are celebrating World Piano Day. Welcome back. Today is the 88th day of the year, which might seem like a random date, except for those who enjoy tickling the ivories. Today is World Piano Day. Our Hirsch Singh on how the occasion is striking a chord with Canadian musicians.
March 29th, a musical Easter egg and a day when the world honors the piano.
Piano Day is on the 88th day of the year. And sometimes people go, huh? Well, a piano has 88 notes on the keyboard.
Established in 2015
by a German composer and musician named Nils Fromm.
And now it's celebrated with concerts across the world, listed on pianoday.org. Danny Carroll, a Winnipeg musician who has spent decades fine-tuning his craft, was one of the few Canadian performers taking part for 2026.
The thing about instrumental music is that it's not like where we have the lyrics guiding us on a story usually. And those are great, those are wonderful. What this does is giving a basic little title, maybe a tiny bit of background, and it allows people to create their own stories, their own imagery while they're listening to the music, where they may go off on some kind of journey.
Carroll says his relationship with the piano goes beyond the stage.
In times of like, I go and sit at the piano, and now I'm creating, I'm composing at the piano, and so it's a personal relationship, and it's helped me through many, many, many kinds of things in my life.
And as the world acknowledges the 88 keys and their melodious sounds, Carroll wants to encourage people to tune in more often to live musical performances to keep themselves composed. Harsh Singh, Global News, Winnipeg.
Well, after a very long winter, the first signs of spring are finally popping up across the country, including Alberta's Banff National Park, where one of its most famous residents has just made an appearance. That is Bear 122, better known as the Boss. He's often the first bear to emerge from hibernation each spring. He's the largest and most dominant grizzly in the area. In fact, the Boss has become something of a legend. He's survived being hit by a train at least once and has fought off numerous rivals. The nearly 700-pound bear is believed to have fathered a significant portion of the area's grizzly population. And we leave you with one more very Canadian sight and sound of spring, the return of the snow geese. Tonight's Your Canada is from our own Mike Armstrong, who caught this spectacular scene this weekend over Lake Boivin in Granby, Quebec. We love seeing Your Canada, so please keep emailing your photos to globalnational@globalnews.ca. That means you too, Mike. Thanks for watching. Donna will be back with you tomorrow. Have a great night.